Okay, so what we covered yesterday was the three types of factoring that we're going to learn about: common factoring, difference of squares, and the sum and product. But what we saw yesterday, we saw like specific factoring. So it was either factored by difference of squares, factored by common factoring. Now, in real life, we don't have that, right? It will be a question that asks you to factor, and it's not only one type of factoring, right? You might have to use multiple of kind of factoring in order for you to be able to get to the most factored expression. So always, the first thing you want to do when you're factoring, you're going to ask yourself if you have a common factor. That's always your first step, okay? You ask yourself, do I have a common factor? And if you do, you factor it. Okay? Then it comes the question, is it difference of squares or is it sum and product? Okay? So difference of squares, you must have two terms. They have to be squared and a minus between them. Right? So remember that the difference of squares is the one where you have the binomial, the two terms. And then the other one, which is the sum and product, is the one where you have the trinomial, the three terms, and then you have to find two numbers that multiply to your last term and add to your middle. Now, sometimes, after we do even, like, let's say, difference of squares, we do the common factor, we do difference of squares, sometimes we might be able to do something a little bit more, another difference of squares. So you guys have to be careful. Always look at your answer and make sure that there's nothing else can be factored out. Okay? But always the first question is going to be, do I have a common factor? Yes or no. Then we'll move on from there. Okay? So let's look at our first example. Do I have a common factor? What is it? 3. So I will factor that 3 out. And I'll have left 3x squared plus 7x plus 12. Right? Am I done? Now you're going to have to ask yourself, looking at this, it's a trinomial, so 3 terms. Can I use different squares here? No. Can I use sum and product? Let's see. What am I looking for? Product, so multiply to what? 12. Multiply to 12, add to 7. So what multiplies to 12? 3 and 4, right? Does it add to 7? Yes. So I found my answer. Do I have to list all the other ones? No, I can stop, right? I already found my factors. I don't need to keep listing, right? The other ones would be 2 and 6, 12 and 1. They don't add to 7. Now, if they don't add to 7, then you have to list the other ones. Okay? Good. So that means my factors are 3 and 4. Now, here's where a lot of students mess up, is that they forget to keep that common factor out. We can't ignore that common factor. It has to stay outside. Okay? Then you'll have x plus 3, x plus 4, and you got your factored 4. Is there anything else that can be factored? No. Okay? In this course, we're going to learn only how to factor with a sum and product, how to factor sum and product with a equals to 1. If you are taking higher level courses, which is the M course, I know you guys are capable of doing this, so I can teach it to you, but we will not be tested on it. Okay? So I will give you an example where we have to do sum and product with a value other than 1. Okay? But you guys are not asked to do this. You'll only be asked to sum and product with a equals to 1. Okay? Are we okay with this?
Yes.
All right. How do you factor the second one? Do I have a common factor? Yes. Do I have a common factor? It's 2. So I'll be left with x squared minus 25. So I have 2 perfect square terms with a minus in between, right? So we call this difference of squares. How do I factor difference of squares? You square root it and what? So it will be x minus 5, x plus 5. Remember, in this case, I'm going to have, I didn't do the steps, so you put the brackets. One is going to be minus, the other one is going to be positive. You square root the x squared, gives you x. You put it in the first position. And then you square root the 25, gives you 5. You put it in the second position. Yes? Can I factor any more? Any further? No. How about the next one? Sorry, what was it? 4 is a common factor. Okay, and so if I factor the 4 out, what do I have left? Do I have to write this step for you guys? No. Are you guys okay if I don't write it? Okay. So if I divide this by 4, this by 4, this by 4, right? So that's going to be x squared minus 2x minus 15. So basically, I skipped the first step. If you guys want to write it, please feel free to write it. I just skipped it. Okay, now, sum and product. What am I looking for?
Multiplying by 15 and the sum.
So it has to multiply to negative 15. So my negative 15. And my sum is negative 2. So since both of them are negative, then my large is going to be negative and my small is going to be positive. Okay? So what multiplies to negative 15? I don't have too much option. 3 and negative 5. Does it add to negative 2? What would be your other option? 1 and 15. A lot of people forget this, and a lot of time this is what, sometimes like this, it's the 1 times whatever the number is. So don't forget that 1 is a factor. Okay, so that right away goes to x plus 3, x minus 5, and I am done. That GCF, the greatest common factor, has to always be outside.
You have to put the negative sign to the biggest number because both of the product and the sum are negative.
Yes.
And when the sum is positive,
Then the other way around. So you see this sheet right here? Okay. So remember that this is 1 is A, right? So I have 1x squared minus 2x minus 15. This is A, this is B, and this is C. Yes? So if B is negative and C is negative, then then the large number is going to be negative and the small is going to be positive. And the reason for that, I have 3 times negative 5. 3 times negative 5 gives me negative 15. Yes? 3 plus negative 5 gives me negative 2. If I have it the other way around, if I have negative 5 and 3, positive 5 and negative 3, it's going to be plus 2. which is not the same. Okay? But if you follow this, it will tell you exactly which number is positive, which one number is negative.
Thank you.
Okay, so here is the question for you. So what if I have, do you have your factoring questions, Maurice? Do you have some? Does this factor? Okay. Did it factor for you? Okay. 2x squared plus 11x plus 14. This is not part of your curriculum. Okay? But it doesn't hurt that you guys see it. 2x squared plus 11x plus 14. Remember, you will not be tested on this. Okay. So, what's the first question to factor? Common factor. Do I have a common factor? Can I divide? Is there a common number? No. So I can't common factor. It's a trinomial, so I have to follow the rule of sum and product, yes? So, what? Exactly. In this case, my A value is not 1. And that is going to affect my sum and product. We can't put decimals. Okay? So, my sum and product, so it's going to be product of, you have to multiply your A and your C. So it has to be a product of 28. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 28.
3 and 8.
And add, what's my sum? 11. So what changes here is that your product is not C anymore. Your product is A times C. Okay? So what multiplies to 28? 4 and 7. And does it add to 11? Okay. So you guys found the factors right away. Okay? It adds to 11. There is multiple answers for this, right? So it could be also 14 and 2, right? It could be. What?
We are not getting tested on this one.
No. Okay? So I found my factors. You know how we, with the A value being 1, I can factor right away and write x plus 4, x plus 7? We can't do that here. We have to do a process called decomposition. Okay? So basically, I have to take my middle term and I have to decompose it into the two factors. Okay? So I keep the first term as is. And then my middle term is going to be plus 4x plus 7x. So you see that if I add these two, the 4 and the 7, they're going to add to 11, yes? So I didn't change anything. The only thing I did is I distributed, is I decomposed it. This stays the same here. Okay? So you see now I have 4 terms. So what we'll do, we're going to common factor the first 2 terms together. And then we're going to common factor the second 2 terms together. Okay? So if what would be my common factor for the 2x squared plus 4x? 2x. So if I factor out a 2x, then I'll have left x plus 2, yes? Okay. What would be my common factor for this one? So it's going to be plus, because I have that plus here, 7, and I'll have x plus 2. Now you see the x plus 2? That's a common factor as well. So if I factor out an x plus 2, what would I have left from my first term? 2x. And what would I have left from the second term? Plus 7. So this is your factor now. So your factor is x plus 2 times 2x plus 7. Okay? So it's a longer process because I have to actually do the math, and it's not only simple as finding your factor, putting it into the brackets. You have to decompose, do common factoring. This is more required for the mixed level, university level math. Okay? So if you're ever wanted to take tech math or mixed university math, you have to learn this. In the college level math, we don't do this. We don't need it. Okay? The surface area of a cylinder is given by the formula surface area equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. Factor the expression for the surface area. Oh, what did you do?
Look for the same, whatever I can find in both of them.
So I'm looking for a common factor. Okay? So if I look at these two terms, 2 is a common number or common factor. Both of them have pi. Both of them have r. This has r squared, this has r, so it's going to be r, the lowest exponent, yes? They don't have h, so I can't take out h. So my common factor is 2 pi r. So if I divide this by 2 pi r, what do I have left? It will be just r, yeah? If I divide this by 2 pi r, what would I have left? H. So this is my factor, yes? So what I want you to do is for B, a cylinder has a radius of 3 centimeter and a height of 10 centimeter. You're going to use both the original expression, which is the 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h, and the factored expression to find the surface area of this cylinder to the nearest square meter, centimeter, sorry. So to the nearest whole number. And then you're going to tell me why would the factored form be easier or more useful to use, okay? So I'll leave you to do these two questions.